Glen Mashinini declared the 2016 local government elections as free and fair. This was announced on Saturday as the final results were announced at the IEC Centre in Pretoria. To talk to us about the past 18 months of preparations for the elections by the IEC, as well as, leading to the election day, the 3rd of August, we joined now by the IEC Deputy Chairperson, Tselane. Tselane, good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning to you and thank you very much for having me.
You had to be here so early in the morning and one would actually think that but thank you so much for your time. Is the IEC happy as to and satisfied with the way things went?
We're very excited as an organization. We ran a very smooth operation. We had some challenges here and there, but all in all, I think we managed to really run a very good operation.
Talking about the challenge, if you were to compare this year's elections with the previous one back in 2011, what major challenges did you come across?
Pockets of instability and violence in some of the areas. But apart from that, the intra-party conflict. I think you may have seen that this was the first time that we had the highest number of independent candidates. The majority of these people were people who were dissatisfied with the political parties that they were part of, and they decided to form their own arrangement where they were going to be contesting the elections as independents. So it was a reflection of the fact that there are people in political parties who are no longer happy or who believe that the political parties no longer serve their interest, and then they feel that they themselves can be able to better represent their own interest. And it is for the first time that we're actually seeing this being so pronounced in our society. And therefore, it was one of the challenges. But in relation
it's basically saying something about South Africa's democracy, isn't it?
Absolutely. It says that we are maturing as a democracy, and therefore, perhaps it's something that should be celebrated. But it only becomes a problem if it is now characterized by violence and assassinations and killings.
Now, the turnout, is the IEC satisfied with the turnout of voters? I mean, we do know that the IEC had done everything in its level best to ensure that the South Africans are registered during the registration weekends that we had. Are you happy?
We are happy. Remember that in South Africa, participation in the elections is voluntary. It's not like in Australia where you are forced to participate in the elections. And if you do not, there are punitive measures that are in place to deal with it. So to get around 57%, 58%, it's something that should be celebrated. We are happy with that. Obviously, we would have preferred to have about 100% voter turnout, but we know that it is not possible in a democratic society.
All right, but were there any complaints perhaps that were lodged with the IEC up to so far?
Oh, there were lots. Compared to 2014, in 2014 we had about 22 Section 55 objections, and for municipal elections we're using what they call Section 65 objections. So they are similar. For national and provincial elections, we use a provision in law in the Electoral Act that is referred to as Section 55, but the provisions are the same, essentially between 55 and 65 of Municipal Electoral Act. So in 2014, we had about 22 objections in line with 55 Section 55 objections. This time around, we had almost 100 Section 65 objections. So
sure, that's like 3 times more than what you had previously.
Yeah, but some of them are really frivolous. I mean, you'd think that because you are dealing with objections that are related to, that are material to the outcome of the election, the objections would be very material. I mean, we had to deal with one case in Ekurhuleni where the complaint was that a candidate was seen dancing in a voting station and trying to influence voters to vote for him. And there was a picture sent to us to say, deal with this kind of objection. So it is some of those things that we regard really as frivolous, but we are required to deal with them. So we had to spend time dealing with each and every objection that was submitted to us.
And I think it brings me to my next question as to how do you go about differentiating which ones are genuinely, that should be investigated by the IEC and which ones should not be?
Yeah, because, the Section 65 objections are dealt with by us as commissioners. We've got a legal team that looks into that, as well as an administrative team that looks into all of them. They will then categorize them and then indicate to us, this ones deal with this kind of issues, this one deal with this kind of issues, and then we'll deal with each one of them, irrespective of whether it's frivolous or not, so that nothing really falls within the cracks.
Now, as the chairperson was declaring the elections free and fair, I was actually watching Twitter very closely. And most of the people, South Africans, especially those that are residing in Johannesburg, were very concerned as to why Johannesburg was not counted or finished counted. What actually happened there?
Johannesburg, by the time we went to the announcement, was still dealing with some few exceptions. The electoral process is a very, very complex process. It is not just about the elections having been declared at the voting station level and then that information having to be captured. When it comes now to information having to be captured into the system, if certain things don't reconcile, the system automatically kicks certain information out. So it flags that as something that has got to be attended to. So you've got to make sure that you get each and every information that will be able to assist you to come to a determination of the result. Sometimes you'd find that because people were exhausted, they made some mistakes, and then you've got to recall them. You've got to call a counting officer and say, there is something that is inconsistent here. This person is already at home trying to relax, but you want the results to be announced. So you've got to get all those people together and say to them, clarify the following issues. We are not happy with the following. What happened here? How come this does not reconcile? And until such time that those things are dealt with, we can't proceed and say that we have an election. But what we did was just to be able to give an indication of how far things are in Johannesburg whilst we're dealing with those queries.
Yeah, no, I remember. But was it really for the first time that it is happening? Because some people are even saying on Twitter that this happened back in 2011, that Johannesburg was the last city to be counted.
2014.
In 2014.
Yeah, in 2014.
The same logistical problems.
The same logistical problems, yeah.
All right.
But also remember, Johannesburg it's dealing with big numbers. And because we're dealing with big numbers, sometimes if there is a problem, or for instance, you need to recount. Because sometimes when we're not happy, even when you've got the results here, you've got to go back and say, you call the political parties and say they must go and observe the process. A particular voting station is going to do a recount. You force a recount. After the recount is then that you get information. So if you had 3,000 or 4,000 people registered in that particular, it takes time.
Now, Tselane, talk to us about what happened Saturday night when the president was making a speech. What actually happened? Because we saw 4 women standing there protesting in silence. Does the IEC know anything about this incident?
We knew absolutely nothing. And you may have seen some of us trying to converse during that period, because also they were not facing us, so we did not even know what was contained. We did not know whether this was part of the script, whether this was part of the presentation.
So you were also taken by surprise?
We were really taken by surprise. We did not know anything. But when it came to our attention that there was a protest, there is nothing wrong with a protest. But at the same time, to the extent that it was disruptive to the process and to the president, we felt obliged as an organization to apologize to the president for the embarrassment that this may have caused.
But what has the IEC found in that regard? Because the ANC Women's League is actually blaming the situation on a particular political party. Was it politically motivated? We
don't know. We have not investigated. We're going to go back to our drawing board and try to find out exactly what happened. And we will take the situation from there.
All right, and the ANC Women's League is not satisfied. Obviously, they're very concerned with what happened, and they are demanding an apology from the IEC. Will the IEC be issuing that apology to the ANC Women's League?
I'm not too sure what the organization is going to do in relation to that. But because the president was invited as the president of the country, we as an organization have apologized to the president, and I don't think I'm not too sure whether there is a need.
All right, like
to
quickly
deal with
on
the
this one,
issues.
we do know that state security will be investigating this matter. Will the IEC also be investigating perhaps on the side?
We will work closely with state security. Obviously, we don't have the capacity to investigate, but we will be guided by the state security in terms of this.
All right, no, that's where we're going to leave it in that. Tselane, thank you so much for your time. You can go and have your good night rest now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There you have it, the IEC Deputy Chairperson, Tselane, talking to us about the local government elections that took place last week, Wednesday. Morning Live takes a break. Don't go away.